Across Kenya and Africa, we have this group that will visit you when you are in a dire need of help. I'm talking about Red Cross, and the man in front of this group is Mr. Abba Gullet, whom we are having on our GBS date. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sure. Talking about Red Cross, sir, you find that you are everywhere, across Kenya and Africa. Maybe to talk just simply about Red Cross briefly. What do you do in Red Cross?
Well, Red Cross is a humanitarian organization enacted by an act of parliament in all these countries. Each country has its own national Red Cross or Red Crescent. Here in Kenya, we have Kenya Red Cross. It started in 1939 as a branch of the British Red Cross. And since Kenya became independent in 1963, there was a national society that was incorporated and formed. And in 1965, the society was recognized through an act of parliament, Cap 256 of the laws of Kenya, establishing the National Red Cross in Kenya to be auxiliary to the public authorities during disasters and catastrophes, that its role is to alleviate human suffering in supporting the efforts of the government, as auxiliary to the government. So our core programs is in area of disaster response, disaster management, areas of health, water and sanitation, disease prevention and control. It is on blood. We don't take blood, but we do social mobilization and the recruitment of blood donors. The government will be the one to collect blood. We're in food security, we're in big time in water, and as I said, in health programs.
Talking about disaster, in any case that now you have to conduct a response to a particular disaster, how do you gauge a disaster before a response, or what level of a disaster that you count that needs your response as an organization?
Well, a disaster is a situation where people have been put in a position that is beyond their control in terms of an emergency. We saw here yesterday in Nairobi where in one of the major slums in town, the Mathare slum, section 4A, where because of the rains, there were rocks that fell down on people and destroyed people's homes and even killed 7 people. To us, a loss of life, whether 1 or 100 or 1 million, is a disaster. To us, you can have mass casualties during disasters in terms of flooding, in terms of conflict, in terms of natural disasters, in terms of epidemics, famine and drought, and there can be many reasons what would create or force a disaster. But for us, the important is whether 1 person or 10 person, 100 persons or 1 million person, people would need assistance. And the role of the Red Cross is to alleviate human suffering whenever and wherever it is found in the territory of this country.
People have faced disasters and maybe the onlookers lack ideas on how to try to alleviate something before the real organization comes in. What is the first priority that one has to take before anything when you reach at a scene of a disaster? The first priority.
Well, the respectful burial. So again, as I said, it varies from one case or another, but when you are the first responder, a lot of times it's ordinary citizens who are the first on the scene. As a national society, our mission or vision is to be the leading humanitarian actor. We want to be the first in and the last out. And you saw yesterday quite a number of our staff and volunteers who were there in the very first hour of that disaster and stayed there until the last body was recovered.
What do you think that the Kenyan society lack when it comes to trying to avoid disasters?
Well, I don't know whether it is lacking or not lacking, but certainly we know as a nation what type of disasters we have. We have man-made disasters and we have natural disasters. The natural disasters is you either had floods or drought or famine. On the other hand, for failures of rains. On the other hand, you have man-made disasters like conflicts due to theft of animal, cattle rustling, or due to any other reason that you may have this. The situation is that every disaster has its own situation that you respond to, and in the man-made ones that are conflict, that are more complex, then you behave differently than natural ones when there are floods or famine. So it's to understand, and we know the phenomena. So as a nation, then how are we prepared? So during your normal peaceful time is to train the relevant parties in the public authorities, in the government, in the police, in the military, in the civil service. People are trained on how to respond to emergencies whenever and wherever it occurs. There are other actors and players like ourselves that are NGOs, and it's how do you train and empower that young person to be better prepared when disasters occur, then he or she can be used and he or she can make a contribution to the would-be victims of that disaster.
Dadaab camp, you people came out through after partnering with the Safaricom Foundation to try to save the situation. Can you please give us the experience the organization went through in Dadaab?
Well, Kenya Red Cross got involved in Dadaab in October last year, and we got into it simply because there were huge humanitarian needs and the imperative was just too big. There were NGOs who were there working, but certainly all of them put together, they did not have the adequate prerequisite quality to provide quality services to these close to 600,000 refugees that are in this area of Dadaab. So in negotiation with the UNHCR, we were given to manage IFO East and IFO West, which is about 86,000 people, and we will be looking at expanding it maybe to 100,000 in the coming weeks, and that's where we are saying that we're putting our resources. But on the other hand, in Dadaab today, there are close to 600,000 refugees that have been there, some for 20 years, some for 10 years, some just slightly over 1 year. And our role is in IFO East and West, where we are working today. We are, as I said earlier, providing services for close to 100,000 people, and that they're being, we are responsible for camp management, for their health, for water and sanitation, and coordinating other agencies like WFP and other NGOs who are providing food to this population.
I believe you are an organization that is everywhere. Can you tell us how you organize networking that makes it so effective?
Yeah. Well, the good thing is being a national organization, an indigenous organization in this country. We have headquarters here in Nairobi. We have 8 regional offices, or what you would call in the government context, regional offices, which are provisional based. And then after the 8 regional offices, we have 64 branches in 64 different towns of this country. So we could say we're in Turkana, we're in Mandera, we're in Moyale, we're in Kwale, we are in Migori, we are, in Lamu, and we're in every corner of this country. So, and on the ground, we also have both employed staff and volunteers are the bulk of our workforce, and we have, for example, as I said, 70,000 volunteers countrywide, but these volunteers are trained in first aid and in other skills, and disaster preparedness. So when a disasters occur, then they'll be the first responders. Through the network of our 64 branches, 8 regional offices, we have said we want to be the first one to respond to any emergency, and we want to be the last one in. So it's this network of branches, of regions, and volunteers, the 70,000 of them, that's what gives us the edge to be the first one on any accident scene. But we are also talking to provincial administration, to district commissioners, all the way that when there are emergencies, then they're able to talk to us.
Is there anything that you have ever done that left you regretting?
Anything that I've done that left us regretting? No, I would say no. Don't get into the areas of regrets, and you don't want to be compromised in such situations. But you want to. What sometimes you regret is, and one can say is, during the post-election violence, it was sad to see the sheer level of the problem. It was sad also to see people suffering, and it's sad to still see Kenyans still suffering today as IDPs that have not been resettled in their previous homes or into new areas.
Maybe one will want to know the interpretation of the logo of Red Cross. We have the crescent moon, the red one, black one, then a red cross, then two spears. How
Yeah.
can you interpret that?
Well, this can be interpreted. First of all, the cross is the Red Cross cross. The Red Cross founder was a Swiss citizen by the name of Henry Dunant. So the Red Cross itself, as we see it, it is the reverse of the Swiss national flag. The Swiss national flag is a white cross on a red background. So in appreciation and recognition, it was switched to be the Red Cross. Now the Red Cross, like in this one, is 5 boxes, square boxes put together to form this. This is not a Christian cross, has no religious connotation. Christian cross would be much longer as it comes down and shorter there. These are 5 equal boxes put together. In the case of Kenya, the shield that we use, this is like the logo, coat of arms of this country, but we're using the shield simply to say that this is the defense against illnesses, defense against disasters, defense against such like situations. So it's a very famous badge, or the logo of the Kenya Red Cross, and it's highly regarded worldwide.
People see you on Red Cross conferences, TVs, but they don't know you personally. Who is Mr. Abba Gullet?
Well, Abba Gullet is a simple, ordinary Kenyan, 53 years old, married with 1 wife and 4 children. Someone that is driven by the desire to excel in what you do, someone that wants to push the humanitarian agenda to the next level, somebody who wants to see that humanitarian actors and organizations in this country become world-class in terms of their operation, in terms of their output, in terms of their need to respond to emergencies in this country, who wants to have lead an organization that want to be the first on any disaster scene, wants to be the first in, last out, but at the end of the day, somebody that is sympathetic and somebody that understands where it hurts most and where it being the wearer of the shoe. But we also believe in the capacity of this country, and especially in the human capacity of this country. We have highly educated, young, well-trained and educated population that we can use to take the agenda of this country to the next level. As we talk about Vision 2030, and you talk of other major development areas and agendas, then you want to be part of that and to be ahead of the pack.
A friend in need is a friend indeed, and Red Cross obey that saying. Simply put, they do what they like most. Manuya Kevin, GBS.